Who really invented the wheel? A recent scientific study tries to answer this key question. To learn more, click on the link in the description below. Meanwhile, today's ghost story describes how the wheels of a modern-day car navigate a haunted road. Ghosts do not exist, and the entire concept is unscientific. Nevertheless, we know for sure that ghosts entertain.
On the night of November 13, 1999, Christopher was traveling in an old car to a remote motel nestled deep in the woods of northern Vermont. The journey was supposed to be a simple one, but as the evening wore on, the weather took a turn for the worse. The road was riddled with cracks, a testament to years of neglect and the unforgiving weather that plagued the region. Vermont's harsh winters, with their heavy snowfalls and biting temperatures, were notorious for wreaking havoc on the roads. The relentless freeze-thaw cycle expanded tiny fissures into deep, jagged cracks, while spring rains only worsened the damage. In remote areas like this, where maintenance crews rarely ventured, the roads seemed to bear the scars of countless seasons, each one adding another layer of wear to the already crumbling asphalt. As Christopher continued on the deserted road, the rain hammered against the windshield, and the fog grew thicker. But this fog wasn't ordinary. It carried an unusual blue hue that danced eerily in the headlight beams. The light scattered strangely, casting ghostly shadows that darted and shifted along the edges of the surrounding forest. Christopher squinted, trying to pierce the gloom, but the blue mist seemed alive, twisting and curling, as if mocking his attempts to navigate the desolate road. An uneasy chill settled over him, creeping through the car's thin insulation. The usual sounds of the night, crickets, distant owls, were gone, replaced only by the muffled thrum of rain and the occasional sound of wind through the trees. The air felt heavy, almost oppressive, and a strange scent, like damp earth and something metallic, wafted in through the car's slightly cracked window. As Christopher's car approached an old and abandoned cemetery, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching him. The trees lining the road seemed to grow denser, their twisted branches clawing at the sky like gnarled fingers. Christopher tightened his grip on the steering wheel. His heart raced as the fog thickened further, blotting out the trees entirely. For a brief moment, he thought he saw a figure, standing in the middle of the road, bathed in the blue haze. He slammed the brakes, the tires skidding on the wet asphalt, but when the car jolted to a stop, the figure was gone. The rain continued to drum against the roof, and the fog coiled closer, wrapping the car in an impenetrable shroud. Christopher's breath fogged up the glass as he tried to steady himself. Something about this mist wasn't natural. Christopher continued driving, his nerves stretched taut, as the fog seemed to thicken, suffocating the faint light from his headlights. Suddenly, his breath caught in his throat. A pale, spectral figure lay sprawled across the cracked asphalt ahead. Its translucent form glowed faintly in the dim light, with a gaunt, hollow-eyed face frozen in an expression of agony. For a moment their gazes met, and Christopher felt a jolt of icy terror, as if the very air had been sucked from his lungs. He slammed on the brakes, and the tires screeched in protest, but as the car lurched to a stop, the figure vanished, leaving only the empty, rain-slick road behind. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the frantic pounding of his heart. The road was indeed haunted. Christopher's hands trembled as he gripped the wheel, his eyes straining to make sense of the thick fog that swallowed the road ahead. The headlights flickered, casting fleeting glimpses of the eerie landscape around him. Trees that appeared and disappeared, like shadows and distant shapes that seemed to move when he wasn't looking. The air inside the car felt cold, a sharp contrast to the warmth of his breath, and the silence was unsettling, broken only by the steady drumming of rain against the roof. Then, as he neared a bend in the road, he caught sight of something that made his blood run cold. A figure standing motionless on the pedestrian crossing. At first, he thought it might be a person, but something about it felt wrong, unnatural. It was tall, impossibly tall, and draped in a long flowing robe that seemed to shimmer with a faint, otherworldly light. Within seconds, the figure vanished, and Christopher continued driving. However, by now, he felt threatened and terrified. Running low on gas, Christopher let out a shaky breath and scanned the road ahead until he spotted the faint glow of a gas station sign piercing through the fog. Relieved but wary, he turned into the station, the tires crunching on the gravel as he pulled up to the lone pump. The place was eerily quiet, the flickering neon lights casting unsettling shadows across the cracked pavement. As he stepped out of the car, the cold night air sent a shiver down his spine. He looked around, no attendant, no other vehicles, just the creak of the old sign swaying in the wind. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw it again, a ghostly figure, standing by the station's darkened window. Its form was faint, almost translucent, but the hollow stare was unmistakable. Christopher froze, his breath catching in his throat, but before he could react, the ghost vanished into thin air, leaving only the unsettling stillness of the station behind. The pump clicked, signaling the tank was full, but Christopher's unease only deepened as he climbed back into the car, his hands shaking as he turned the key in the ignition. The night grew darker, the blackness outside pressing in like a suffocating shroud. The clock on the dashboard blinked 1:15 a.m., its dull glow the only sign of time moving forward in the endless stretch of his nerve-wracking drive. Suddenly, Christopher slammed on the brakes, his car screeching to a halt as his headlights illuminated a whitish car standing eerily in the middle of the road. Its once bright paint was now mottled with rust, and its boxy frame revealed it to be an old, outdated model, long forgotten by time. Just as he leaned forward to get a better look, a chilling sight made his blood run cold. A white ghost stood near the hood of the car, its face smooth and featureless, with no eyes to meet his terrified stare. It lingered for a moment, motionless and eerie, before vanishing into the night, as though it had never been there. Christopher gripped the wheel tightly, his breath ragged, the oppressive silence around him making him feel utterly trapped, with no clear way out of this nightmare. By the time Christopher arrived at the Midnight Oasis Motel, the atmosphere was as unsettling as his journey had been. The motel stood in shadow, its neon pink sign glowing brightly against the dark sky, casting an unnatural hue over the area. The reception area was dimly lit and cluttered, papers strewn across the desk, cobwebs gathering in the corners. A musty smell hung in the air, mixing with the faint odor of mildew. Behind the desk stood a hunched employee, his hollow eyes peering out from under a greasy cap, his face pale and emotionless. He mumbled as he handed Christopher the room key, his voice raspy, as though it hadn't been used in years. Later that night, as Christopher lay on the creaky bed, a muffled sound from the neighboring room jolted him awake. Curious and uneasy, he stepped out to investigate. The door was slightly ajar, despite the glaring sign on it that read, "Closed for maintenance." Inside, the TV flickered, casting eerie shadows across the messy, neglected room. The screen displayed a horror film, its crackling audio filling the air with unsettling sounds. Yet the room was empty, no sign of anyone who could have turned the TV on. The carpet was dirty and torn, and the mattress on the bed had accumulated dust and debris. Christopher's heart pounded as he stepped closer, his eyes scanning the chaos. As Christopher turned to leave the room, a chill ran down his spine. From the corner of his eye, he noticed a figure, standing right outside the window, its gaunt face peering in. The specter wore ragged, dirty clothes, its hair matted and wild, and its eyes, hollow and lifeless, locked onto him with an expression of grim determination. For a moment, it seemed to breathe with a cold, oppressive presence. His heart pounded in his chest as he froze, unable to move or speak. But just as he gathered the courage to approach the window, the figure faded into the night, disappearing as quickly as it had appeared, just like all the ghosts before it. The room felt even colder now, as if the very air around him had turned to ice. Somehow, despite the overwhelming fear and the eerie events that had unfolded, Christopher managed to spend the night in the motel. Sleep eluded him, the memories of the ghostly apparitions lingering in his mind like shadows, but exhaustion eventually took over. By dawn, he was still shaken but determined to continue his journey. The strange happenings of the night gnawed at him, yet he resolved to press on. As the next night fell, he packed his things, steeling himself for whatever lay ahead. The road, shrouded in mist and mystery, still called to him, and with a deep breath, Christopher set off again, hoping the horrors of the past night would remain behind him, though something told him they were far from over. The road ahead seemed as desolate as ever, but something deeper inside him told him to press on. The journey was far from over, and no matter how frightening the unknown was, he couldn't turn back. As midnight approached, he braced himself for whatever lay ahead, hoping that the horrors of the previous night would remain behind him, though his instincts told him they were far from finished. No, ghosts do not exist at all. But yes, they do entertain for sure. Based on a fake story. Christopher's story.